My name is Audrey Miller. And for 5 years, I had been the woman who knew exactly how much money Chicago's most dangerous man had hidden from the world. I knew which companies were real. I knew which companies existed only on paper. I knew which properties made money, which warehouses lost money, which politicians had suddenly discovered an interest in redevelopment, and which men needed to be paid before midnight if Adrian Cross wanted the city to remain quiet until morning. What I did not know was how much I meant to him. I found that out at 2:17 on a Wednesday morning, while I was bleeding on the shoulder of Lakeshore Drive with broken glass in my hair and a stranger's warning still ringing in my ears. Tell Cross the books are closed, then the man hit me again. I remember the sound more clearly than the pain, a dull crack. My cheek struck the hood of my car. For one strange second, all I could think about was the quarterly tax forecast waiting on my desk. That was how my mind worked, numbers before fear. Problems before pain, solutions before emotion. It was probably why Adrian Cross hired me in the first place. It was also probably why I survived working for him, 5 years earlier. I had walked into Cross Development wearing a navy suit I could barely afford, and carrying a leather portfolio my father had given me when I graduated from Cornell. I had been 27 years old, ambitious, stubborn, and very convinced that intelligence could solve almost anything. Adrian had been 36. Already wealthy enough to make financial magazines nervous and powerful enough that people lowered their voices when they said his name. Publicly. He owned real estate, logistics companies, restaurants, private security firms, and a controlling interest in 6 construction companies. Privately, he owned fear. Nobody wrote that part down, I learned it slowly. The first week I noticed strange vendor payments. The second week I noticed cash moving through companies that had no employees. By the third month, I found $800,000 disappearing every quarter through a maintenance contractor that did not exist. I spent 2 nights checking every invoice. Then I walked into Adrian's office without an appointment. His assistant at the time nearly had a heart attack. Ms. Miller, Mr. Cross is in a meeting. He is losing $2 million a year. The assistant stared at me. I lifted the folder in my hand. I think he will want to know. Adrian had been sitting behind a black walnut desk when I entered. 2 men in expensive suits were standing near the windows. Neither of them looked like real estate executives. One had a scar from his left ear to his jaw. The other had a shoulder holster visible beneath his jacket. Adrian looked up at me. He was not handsome in the clean, easy way men were handsome in magazine advertisements. He was too severe for that. Dark hair, dark eyes. Broad shoulders, a face made of hard lines and restrained impatience. He looked like a man who had forgotten what it felt like to ask permission. You are interrupting me, Ms. Miller. Yes. One of the men near the window smiled. Adrian did not. Why? I placed the file on his desk. Because someone is stealing from you. That got his attention. He opened the folder. I watched his eyes move, once, twice, then slower. How much? $167,000 a month on average. The scarred man stopped smiling. Adrian looked up. Who? Your controller, Daniel Mercer. Silence, I continued. He is using a shell contractor called North Valley Maintenance. It bills 4 of your properties for services that were never performed. The payments go through 2 accounts and eventually land in a private investment account controlled by Mercer. The scarred man walked toward me. You know what a shell company is? I looked at him. I know what fraud is. He chuckled. Adrian did not. He kept reading. How long have you known? 46 hours, and you did not go to the police. I met his eyes. I work for you. That was the moment everything changed. He closed the folder. Sit down. I did. The 2 men left. I never saw Daniel Mercer again. I also never asked what happened to him. The next morning, Adrian doubled my salary. 3 months later, I was running his financial division. A year after that, I was managing his calendar, his investments, his acquisition strategy, his legal exposure, and enough confidential information to destroy several careers. He told me there was one rule. You will see things you were not meant to see. I already have. You will ask questions. I always do. His gaze sharpened. You will not ask certain questions. I understood, so I nodded. For 5 years that was the arrangement. I handled numbers. Adrian handled everything else. We built a wall between us and lived comfortably on opposite sides of it. He never flirted with me. I never flirted with him. He never touched me unless he was passing me a file. I never called him Adrian at the office. He never called me anything except Audrey or Ms. Miller. We had dinner together hundreds of times, but always over contracts. We spent nights alone in conference rooms, but always with spreadsheets between us. I had watched him ruin men without raising his voice. I had watched him walk into negotiations with senators, union presidents, bankers, and criminals, and leave with exactly what he wanted. And somehow, I believed the wall would protect me forever. That illusion ended when a black sport utility vehicle blocked my car at a red light. I had left the office at 1:43 in the morning. That was not unusual. We were closing the acquisition of 3 warehouses near the river. I had spent the evening reviewing tenant liabilities. I was tired, irritated, and thinking about whether I had remembered to buy coffee for my apartment. The light turned red. I stopped. The vehicle appeared behind me. Another car stopped in front of me. At first I thought it was traffic. Then the driver's door of the vehicle opened. A man stepped out carrying a baseball bat. I locked my doors. He smiled. That was the last ordinary moment of my life. The bat came through the driver's window. Glass exploded across my face. I screamed and covered my head. A second man opened the door from inside. They pulled me onto the street. Neither wore masks. That frightened me more than anything. Men who expected consequences covered their faces. Men who did not expect witnesses did not. What do you want? One grabbed my injured arm. Your boss, I do not know where he is. Wrong answer. He shoved me against the car. The second man opened my purse and dumped everything onto the pavement. Wallet, keys, lipstick, receipts, a small bottle of aspirin. He kicked through it. They did not take my money. They did not take my jewelry. That was when I understood this was not robbery. The first man leaned close enough that I smelled cigarettes and mint gum. Tell Cross the books are closed. My mind froze on the words, books, not streets, not business, books. Before I could ask what he meant, his fist caught my cheek. I fell. My temple struck the edge of the hood. The world flashed white. Somewhere in the distance, tires screeched. Someone shouted. The men ran. I remember lying in the rain and thinking that the pavement was warmer than I expected. Then a woman was kneeling beside me. Do not move. My phone. What? My phone. It is broken. I turned my head. My phone was under the rear tire of the sport utility vehicle. The screen was shattered. I almost laughed. Instead, I started shaking. The ambulance came. The police came. Everyone asked questions. Nobody asked the right one. Who would I call? I did not have a husband. My parents lived in Vermont. My older brother was stationed in Germany. My closest friends believed I worked ridiculous hours for an intense real estate investor. There was only one person who needed to know. At the hospital, a nurse let me use a desk phone. I knew Adrian's private number from memory. It rang once. Cross. His voice was low and awake. He rarely slept before 3. Mr. Cross. Silence, then his voice changed. Audrey. I looked down at my blood-stained blouse. I am at St. Jude Memorial. What happened? I was involved in an incident. What kind of incident? I closed my eyes. My car was blocked. 2 men pulled me out. Nothing, no curse. No question, just silence. That silence frightened me more than shouting would have. They said something. What? They told me to tell you that the books are closed. Still silence. A nurse passed and glanced at me. I lowered my voice. The police are here. I might be late for the 9 o'clock briefing. Adrian finally spoke. Stay where you are. Mr. Cross, I can take a taxi home when they release me. Stay. The line disconnected. 23 minutes later, he walked into the emergency department. He came alone. No security team, no driver, no men with guns, just Adrian. He wore a black shirt, dark trousers, and a wool coat that was wet across the shoulders from the rain. The moment he entered, the room changed. That sounds dramatic, it is also true. People moved without knowing why. A security guard stopped leaning against a desk. 2 police officers near my curtain straightened. Adrian did not hurry, he never hurried. Men who controlled rooms did not need to. He stepped inside the treatment bay. I had 7 stitches above my left temple. My cheek was swelling. My shoulder was badly bruised. My ribs hurt every time I breathed. I had never felt less like myself. Then I saw him. Something inside me broke, not visibly. I did not cry. I did not reach for him. I simply felt relief so powerful it made me ashamed. Mr. Cross. His eyes moved over me. The torn blouse, the sling, the bandage, the bruising. His jaw tightened. You did not have to come, I said. He ignored that. Who did this? One of the officers stepped forward. Sir, we are still taking her statement. Adrian turned. I asked her. The officer frowned. And I am telling you that we are conducting an investigation. Adrian looked back at me. Do you know them? No. Did they take anything? No. What exactly did they say? I repeated it. His expression became still, too still. The officer glanced between us. Who exactly are you? Adrian looked at him. Her employer, name, Adrian Cross. The officer's posture changed, very slightly, but I saw it. Everybody in Chicago knew Cross Development, police officers knew more. The officer cleared his throat. We need Ms. Miller to continue answering questions. Adrian stepped closer to my bed. She has answered enough tonight. That is not your decision. Adrian smiled. It was not friendly. My attorney can explain my decisions if you need help understanding them. You are interfering with an investigation. I am protecting an injured employee from being questioned while she is concussed. The younger officer looked uncomfortable. The older one held his ground. She can decide that for herself. Adrian turned toward me. Audrey, I looked at the officers, then at him. I would like to leave. The older officer sighed. Fine, we will follow up tomorrow. Adrian waited until they were gone, then he looked at me again. The doctor entered and explained my injuries. Mild concussion, bruised ribs. Deep contusion at my shoulder, no fracture. Rest, pain medication, no driving, no work. At that last instruction, Adrian looked at me. I looked away, the doctor left, I tried to stand. Pain went through my ribs so sharply that my knees folded. Adrian caught me before I hit the floor. His arm went around my waist. My hand landed against his chest. For 5 years, we had maintained boundaries with almost religious discipline. 1 second erased all of them. He was warm, solid. His hand was enormous against my side. His face was inches from mine. I can walk. No, I am not an invalid. You nearly collapsed. I stood too fast. A distinction without value. I glared at him. For the first time that night, something almost human moved in his eyes. Argue tomorrow, he said. He kept an arm around me as we walked through the hospital. Outside, the cold hit me. I shivered. He stopped. Without a word, he removed his coat and placed it around my shoulders. You need this. I have survived Chicago winters before, so have I. You are standing in the rain in a shirt. I noticed. I almost smiled, almost. He opened the passenger door of his car. Where are we going? My house. I stared at him. No, get in. I am going home. No, Mr. Cross. Audrey, there was warning in his voice. I lowered mine. I have a home. The men who attacked you knew your route. That stopped me. He leaned closer. They knew when you left the office. They knew what car you drove. They knew where to trap you. My stomach tightened. You think they know where I live? I think assumptions get people killed. I hated that he was right. I got into the car. The drive was quiet. Rain moved across the windshield. Chicago slid past us in wet reflections. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then I said I should resign. The car stopped so fast the seat belt locked across my chest. Pain tore through my ribs. I gasped. Adrian pulled onto the shoulder and put the car in park. What did you say? I said I should resign. His eyes were black in the low light. You were attacked and your conclusion is that you should resign. If this happened because of my position, I am now a liability. You are not a liability. They used me to send you a message. His hand tightened around the steering wheel. That makes them stupid. It makes me exposed. It makes them dead. I stared at him. He said it calmly. That was the terrible part. No performance, no anger, just fact. Do not say things like that. Why? Because I know you mean them. He leaned toward me. So do they. I swallowed. This is exactly why I need to leave. No. You do not own my employment contract. I own the company, not the same thing. Tonight it is. I turned toward the window. This is irrational. He laughed once, low, humorless. You are lying in my coat with blood on your collar and you are explaining rationality to me. I am explaining risk. I know risk. Then calculate it. I have. He looked at me. The risk is higher if you leave. How? Because then I cannot protect you. The words landed harder than they should have. I looked at him. You protect employees this personally. His expression changed, only slightly. No. That answer stayed between us. I could not decide whether I wanted him to explain it. He started driving again. His estate sat north of the city behind stone walls and iron gates. I had been there twice before for formal dinners. I had never stayed overnight. I had definitely never arrived at 3 a.m. wearing his coat while injured. A doctor was waiting, so were armed guards. Adrian carried me upstairs after I nearly lost my balance on the first step. I can walk. You have said that. Put me down. No. You are impossible, so I have been told. His arms tightened slightly. I stopped arguing. He carried me into a guest room, larger than my apartment living room. A woman from the household staff had left clean clothes on the bed. The doctor examined me again. Adrian stood near the door, watching. Always watching. When the doctor finished, Adrian finally left. I called after him. Adrian, he stopped. It was the first time I had said his first name directly to him in years. He turned. Thank you. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Sleep. The door closed. I did not sleep, neither did he. I learned that later. At 8:30 the next morning, I was sitting upright with an encrypted tablet in my lap when Adrian walked into the room. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair was damp, there was dried blood across 2 knuckles. I stared at his hand. You went out. I handled something. What? A logistics problem. That is your phrase for violence. He stopped. Do you want details? No, that was a lie. Part of me wanted every detail. Another part wanted to return to the version of my life where violence was represented by unusual expense entries. I lifted the tablet. I need access to the main server. No. I was attacked because of financial information. You do not know that. They said books. He said nothing, not territory, not streets. Not shipments, books. I heard you. I was the target. Which is why you are resting. I can rest after I understand why. His expression hardened. Audrey, I placed the tablet down. If someone penetrated our financial structure, I need to know. I hesitated, then corrected myself. You're. Something flickered in his face. I continued. The men used terminology connected to my work. That means they knew what I do. I need access. You have a concussion. I have a headache. You have bruised ribs. My ribs do not audit bank transfers. For a moment he stared at me. Then he reached inside his jacket and removed a secure tablet. He placed it on the bed. Read only. I looked at him. Full access. No. Then I cannot do my job. You are not working. Full access. A corner of his mouth almost moved. 5 years and you still do not understand the word no. I understand it. I simply reject it when it is inefficient. He entered a code. The device unlocked. Full access. Thank you. He sat in a chair across the room. You are staying here while you work. I did not ask permission to leave. You were thinking about it. That is disturbing. I know you. That should not have affected me. It did. I began with the obvious. Recent transactions, vendor payments, changes in liquidity, blocked accounts. Disputed transfers. I went back 30 days, nothing, 60, nothing. Then I remembered the warehouses. 3 weeks earlier, Cross Development had acquired a group of industrial properties along the river. Routine transaction. I had reviewed the tenant contracts. Most were legitimate, one was not. Apex Logistics, no employees, no meaningful inventory. A monthly rent payment almost 4 times the market rate. The tenant was moving money through the property. I terminated the lease. Then I flagged the transaction chain because the payment structure violated our compliance requirements. At the time, it was just housekeeping. That morning, sitting in Adrian's guest room with bruises across half my body, it stopped looking routine. I opened the file. Apex Logistics. Delaware registration. Parent entity, holding company, second holding company, Casino Services Corporation. I froze. Adrian noticed. What? Come here, he stood. I turned the screen toward him. Do you remember Apex Logistics? No, you should not. It was a ghost tenant in the warehouse acquisition. What did they do? They paid inflated rent to a storage unit that was barely used. Money washing. Yes, whose? I am tracing it. 3 corporate layers later, I found the name. Onan Entertainment Holdings. Adrian became very still. You know them? Yes, who? The Onan family. I knew the name. Everybody around Adrian did. Old Chicago organization, Irish roots, once powerful, now shrinking. They controlled a few clubs, a casino across the state line, some trucking contracts and enough old relationships to remain dangerous. I scrolled. Then I understood. Oh, Adrian looked at me. What? I did this. You did what? I shut their pipeline. I showed him. When I terminated the Apex lease, the compliance system automatically placed a fraud hold on funds tied to the tenant. How much? I checked. My stomach dropped. $6.3 million. He stared at the screen. I continued. The money moved through the casino network into Apex, then through the warehouse lease, then into service companies. Once I closed Apex and flagged the payments, the banking partner froze the entire connected flow. For how long? Until ownership verification. They cannot verify. Not without explaining where the money originated. Adrian leaned back. So they are trapped, financially strangled, and they blame you. I looked at the bruises on my arms. Apparently, he went quiet. I knew that silence. It was the silence he used before making decisions other people regretted. Adrian, he looked at me, do not what? Whatever you are thinking, you do not know what I am thinking. 5 years, his gaze held mine. Exactly. I felt something pass between us, knowledge, recognition. The uncomfortable reality that we had spent half a decade studying each other while pretending not to. I turned back to the screen. The Onins are not strong enough for a direct war. They do not need to be strong to hire 2 men with a bat. True, they will try again, probably. His face became colder. No. I looked up. No, what? They will not. I should have been frightened, instead I felt safe. That frightened me more. By afternoon I had mapped the Onan finances. They were in worse shape than I expected. Their casino looked profitable from the outside, but most of the operating cash moved through short-term private accounts. They paid contractors quickly, security, drivers, warehouse workers, collectors. Cash businesses survived on movement. Stop the movement and the organization slowed. Stop it long enough and loyalty disappeared, I showed Adrian. They are operating on very thin liquidity, meaning they have property but no available money, so we take the property. No, he raised an eyebrow. No, that takes months. What do you suggest? I enlarged 3 account clusters. They use 3 independent cash offices. Where? Outside Chicago. How do you know? Insurance filings, security expenses, utility patterns. Reimbursement cycles. He looked at me as if I had just spoken another language, English. They spend a lot of money guarding 3 businesses that barely make any revenue. His eyes narrowed. Cash storage, most likely. How much? Enough to keep their organization operating. Adrian leaned against the desk. If those locations go offline, they miss payroll within 24 hours, contractors stop working, drivers disappear, security becomes unreliable. Every man being paid to stay loyal starts calculating his options. He looked at me. You want to bankrupt them? They tried to beat me to death because I froze their money. That was not an answer. I looked directly at him. Yes. Something changed in his expression, respect perhaps or recognition, maybe both. That evening Adrian brought me downstairs, not to dinner, to the war room. I had known the room existed, I had never entered it. It was beneath the house behind 2 steel doors, large table, secure communications, maps, screens. Men I had seen in hallways and conference rooms but never together. Carter Vale, Adrian's oldest lieutenant. Michael Russo, who ran transport. Daniel Shaw, who handled security. 3 others I knew only from payroll records. Conversation stopped when I entered. I was wearing black trousers borrowed from a housekeeper, and one of Adrian's oversized shirts, because my shoulder could not tolerate my own clothes. I also had a sling. I looked ridiculous. Nobody laughed. Adrian pulled out the chair to his right. Sit. I sat. Carter looked at my face, his jaw tightened. How are you feeling? Expensive. He laughed once. That sounds like Audrey. Adrian stood at the head of the table. The Onans made a mistake. Nobody spoke. They believed Audrey was a soft target. Carter looked at me. They will not make that mistake twice. Adrian nodded toward the screen. Show them, so I did. I explained the frozen 6 million, the cash shortage, the 3 offices, the vulnerability. One of the men frowned. You want us to hit 3 money rooms. I want you to remove the cash flow. Same thing. No, it is not. He leaned back. I continued. If you attack their casino, you create publicity. If you attack their people, you create revenge. If you remove their liquidity, you create panic. Carter smiled. She is right. I pointed at the graph. They cannot pay loyalty with tradition. They need cash every day. Remove the cash and the organization turns on itself. Adrian watched me, not the screen, me. I noticed. I pretended not to. Daniel asked, what happens to the frozen 6 million? It stays frozen. For how long? Until somebody proves it is clean money. The room laughed. Adrian did not. His eyes remained on me. 3 teams, he said, 1 location each. I looked at him. You are not going. Silence. Every man at the table turned toward me. Adrian slowly looked down. Excuse me, you are not going. Carter stared at the table, clearly trying not to react. I continued. You are the central decision point for the entire organization. This is not a corporation. It behaves like one. No. Your removal creates instability across every operation. Adrian's voice lowered. They put their hands on you. That does not make you bulletproof. One of the men coughed. Adrian looked around the room. Everybody out. They left very quickly. When the door closed, he walked toward me. You embarrassed me in front of my men. You built an organization where nobody tells you when your decisions are stupid. You think this is stupid. I think it is emotional. His expression hardened. You were dragged out of a car. I remember. They broke your face open. I remember that too. They put a bat through your window. I was there. He planted both hands on the table. And you expect me to sit here? Yes, why? Because I need you alive. The words came out before I could stop them. Silence. His face changed, so did mine. I looked away. From a strategic perspective, of course, do not do that. Do what? Make that sound like something else. He stepped closer. What would it sound like? I swallowed. Adrian, he was too close. I could see the faint scar beneath his left eye. I had noticed it hundreds of times. I had never been close enough to see how thin it was. 5 years, he said quietly. What about them? 5 years of pretending. My pulse jumped. I do not know what you mean. That is a lie. Then let us continue lying. Something almost painful crossed his face, then vanished. He straightened. I am going. I exhaled. Then wear armor. He gave me a look. I am serious, so am I. I watched him prepare. I hated every second of it. Not because I had suddenly developed moral objections. I had worked for Adrian too long to pretend innocence. I hated it because for the first time violence had a face I cared about. His. Before he left, he stopped beside my chair. Stay here. I know. Lock the door. I know. Do not open it unless it is me. I know. He leaned closer. Audrey, I looked up. Yes. If anything happens, there is an emergency exit behind the second panel. Nothing is going to happen. Promise me. What? That you will use it. My throat tightened. I promise. He nodded, then walked away. I listened to the door close. For the next 2 hours I discovered something terrible. Numbers could not control fear. I watched financial systems, security feeds, location markers. I listened to short radio updates. Nothing dramatic, nothing heroic. Just professional voices and long silences. One site went dark, then the second, then the third. Carter reported first. Location 1 is done. Michael followed. Location 2 is clear. Then nothing from Adrian. 30 seconds, 1 minute 2. My hands began to shake. I told myself it meant nothing. Communication delay, signal problem, operational discipline. 3 minutes, 4. I stood, pain tore through my ribs. I did not care. 5 minutes, then his voice came through. Third location is finished. I closed my eyes. I had not realized I was holding my breath. He returned after 3 in the morning. The bunker door opened. Adrian stepped inside. Wet hair, soot on his sleeve, a cut across one hand. Exhaustion in every line of his body. He looked at me. I stood. Are you hurt? No. Your hand. Glass. I crossed the room. You are bleeding. It is nothing. Sit. He almost smiled. You are giving me orders now. You employed me for my judgment. That was before you became terrifying. Sit. He sat. I took the medical kit from the wall. My injured shoulder protested when I opened it. He reached for the box. I can do it. Your hands caused the problem. I am aware. I cleaned the cut. He watched me. You should not have been down here tonight. I kept working. You already said that. You belong upstairs. No, in the office. No. Audrey, I looked up. No, his jaw tightened. You do not understand what you are choosing. I understand perfectly. You saw one night. I have seen 5 years. On paper. Paper is where people hide the truth. He said nothing. I wrapped gauze around his palm. I know what your companies are. Silence. I know which businesses make money and which exist to move it. I know why certain invoices appear. I know why certain settlements are paid quickly. I know why some employees receive bonuses after operations that do not appear on any project calendar. His eyes stayed on mine. I knew. You did not see. I chose not to look. That matters not anymore. His voice turned rough. Why? I swallowed. Because they hurt me. Because I helped destroy them. Because you came to the hospital alone. Because you carried me upstairs. Because you looked at my bruises like someone had vandalized something sacred. Because when your radio went silent for 5 minutes. I understood that losing you would break something inside me that I had spent years pretending did not exist. I said none of that. Instead I said, because I am tired of pretending that I am separate from what I help you build. He stood, slowly. We were close again, too close. You want a place in this. I already have one. You want more. I want honesty. From me, from both of us. His eyes darkened. Careful. Why? Because you might get it. My heart started pounding. Then give it to me. He reached toward my face, stopped. His fingers hovered near the bruise on my cheek. Then touched the uninjured side. So gently it almost hurt worse. I went to that hospital ready to burn this city down. I stopped breathing. He continued. I walked in and saw blood on your shirt, Adrian. I saw you sitting there trying to explain that you might be late for work. I almost laughed. He did not. I realized something. What? I had spent 5 years lying to myself. My throat went dry. About what? You. The room became impossibly quiet. He lowered his hand. I kept you in the office because I told myself you were safer there. I was, no. I kept you there because I could pretend you were only an employee. I stared at him, and now I cannot. Every instinct I had built over 5 years told me to step back. Professionalism, survival, common sense. I stayed where I was. You are my boss. Yes, you are also a criminal. Yes, you are controlling, often arrogant, frequently possessive. His gaze sharpened. Only where you are concerned. That sent heat through my face. I hated that he noticed. He always noticed. This is a terrible idea, I whispered. Probably. It could destroy everything. Yes, we work together. Yes. You are agreeing too easily. I have already argued with you enough for one night. I laughed. It hurt my ribs. I winced. His hand immediately went to my waist. Easy. I looked down at his hand, then back at him. This is what I mean. What? You do things like that. I catch you. Touch me like it is natural. His expression changed. It feels natural. There it was. The sentence I had been avoiding for years. I stepped closer. His hand tightened slightly at my waist. I thought you did not notice me. His eyes went almost black. Audrey, what? I have known the exact sound of your footsteps in my hallway for 4 years. I froze. He continued. I know when you are angry because you close folders harder. I stared. I know when you have skipped lunch because you start correcting grammar in contracts. I almost smiled. I know you drink tea when you are worried and coffee when you are tired. That could be professional observation. I know you wear the silver earrings when you need courage. My breath caught. Those earrings had belonged to my mother. I wore them during difficult negotiations. I had never told him. You noticed everything. The word settled between us. I looked at the man in front of me. Not Adrian Cross, the businessman. Not Adrian Cross, the name spoken carefully in private rooms. Just Adrian, tired, cut, angry, terrifying. And standing in front of me like I was the only person in the world capable of hurting him. You should have said something. So should you. I work for you. And I was trying not to ruin your life. I laughed softly. You do not get to decide that for me. I am learning, slowly. His thumb moved once against my side. What happens now? I looked toward the screens. The Onan's collapse. I meant us. I knew I needed a second. Tomorrow I move into your main office. His eyebrow lifted. Excuse me. The office beside yours is too small. You are negotiating office space now. I told you honesty. He almost smiled. And I want full access to strategic planning. No, Adrian, you were beaten yesterday. That is not an argument. It is to me. I am not asking permission. This is still my organization. Then you should be grateful I am improving it. He laughed, actually laughed. It was the first time I had heard the sound without bitterness. Then his expression softened. And I looked at him. No secrets. He waited. No pretending. His gaze dropped to my mouth. I continued before I lost courage. And no treating me like property. His eyes lifted. I may struggle with that one, then struggle quietly. A slow smile appeared. Dangerous, beautiful, anything else? Yes, what? If you ever slam on the brakes while I have bruised ribs again, I will personally freeze every account you own. His smile widened. Understood. Then he kissed me, not violently. Not like a man claiming territory. That surprised me. He kissed me like a man who had waited too long, and was almost afraid the moment would disappear. His hand rested behind my neck. His other arm stayed carefully around my waist, avoiding my injuries. I closed my eyes. 5 years vanished. Every late meeting. Every silent dinner. Every moment one of us looked away too quickly. Every excuse, every boundary, gone. When we finally separated, I kept my forehead against his chest. His heart was beating hard. That pleased me more than it should have. You are nervous, I murmured. No, liar. His arms tightened. Do not ruin the moment. I smiled against his shirt. The first time since the attack I felt like myself. No, that was not true. I felt different, stronger in some ways, more vulnerable in others. The next morning, the Onan organization began falling apart exactly as I predicted. Contractors stopped answering calls. 2 drivers disappeared with company vehicles. A security team quit after missing payment. 3 smaller crews switched allegiance before noon. By evening, the Onans were calling intermediaries asking for negotiations. Adrian refused. I did not. That surprised him. They tried to kill you. They tried to scare me. Same problem, different solution. He stood behind his desk. I sat across from him. His office looked exactly as it had before the attack. That bothered me. The world had changed, the furniture had not. What do you want? He asked. The frozen money stays frozen, obviously. They surrender the warehouse contracts, yes. They leave the logistics corridor, yes. They identify the men who attacked me. Adrian went still, and those men go to the police. His face hardened. No, Adrian. They do not get a courtroom. Then we are not negotiating. You think you can order me not to kill men who put you in the hospital? Yes, he stared. Why? Because if we destroy every enemy, we eventually become the only enemy left. That sounds like something from a philosophy class. It sounds like sustainable management. That is worse. I leaned forward. Give me this. He looked at me. No bodies, Audrey, no bodies. He exhaled slowly. You are very inconvenient. You hired me for accounting. You should have read the fine print. 3 hours later, the Onans accepted. The men who attacked me were arrested on weapons and assault charges after an anonymous evidence package reached the district attorney. I did not ask who prepared it. Adrian did not tell me. That was technically a secret. We decided not to argue about it. For several weeks I remained at the estate while recovering. At first I stayed in the East Wing. Then I discovered Adrian's kitchen at midnight. He was sitting at the island eating cereal. I stopped in the doorway. He looked up. Neither of us spoke. Then I started laughing. He frowned. What? You own 6 restaurants. Yes. You have a chef. Yes. You are eating cornflakes. It is 2 a.m. That does not explain anything. He looked at the bowl. I like cornflakes. That was the beginning of something more dangerous than any mafia war. Normal life. I learned Adrian hated mushrooms. He learned I slept with the television on when storms were bad. I learned he read history books. He learned I stole blankets. I learned that when nightmares woke him, he went downstairs and worked. He learned that when nightmares woke me, I checked door locks 3 times. One night, he found me standing near a window because I had heard a car outside. He did not say I was being irrational. He did not tell me I was safe. He simply stood beside me until my breathing slowed. Then he said, "Do you want another lock installed?" I looked at him. "No, more guards, no, a dog." That made me smile. What kind? Large. That is not a breed. I do not know dogs, clearly. The next week there was a German Shepherd puppy in the kitchen. I stared at Adrian. You bought me a dog. He is not yours. The puppy ran toward me. I picked him up. What is his name? He does not have one. I looked at the puppy. Franklin. Adrian stared. You named a guard dog Franklin. Yes. He sounds like an accountant. Perfect. Franklin became mine. Adrian pretended not to love him. Franklin slept outside Adrian's office by the end of the month. Our relationship at work was more difficult. I moved into the office beside his, not because he agreed, because I ordered movers. He arrived one morning and found my files being carried across the hall. He stood in the doorway. What is happening? I told you I needed more space. I said no. I interpreted that as an opening position. You cannot negotiate with me after I have already decided. That is literally when negotiation happens. Carter walked past, saw Adrian's face and immediately disappeared. By noon my office was moved. By evening Adrian had sent me a new desk. Neither of us mentioned who won. Things were changing. I began attending strategic meetings. At first the men were careful around me. Then they discovered I could calculate the financial cost of their plans, faster than they could explain them. Respect came quickly after that. Fear followed. One afternoon Michael proposed shutting down a rival delivery route. I asked cost, maybe 50,000. Wrong, he frowned. Excuse me. Insurance claims, lost shipments, replacement vehicles, overtime, legal settlements. 180,000 at minimum. He looked at Adrian. Adrian shrugged. She is usually right. Usually. I turned toward him. He avoided my eyes. The room laughed. It was the first time anyone laughed openly during one of Adrian's meetings. He blamed me. I accepted responsibility. 3 months after the attack I returned to my townhouse. Adrian hated the idea. You can stay here. I have stayed here. You are safer here. I need my own space. You have an entire wing. It is your wing. The word stopped me. He noticed. I looked away. Not yet. His face closed slightly. I hated hurting him. But I needed something that belonged to me. Not cross money, not cross security, not cross influence. Mine, he understood eventually. He increased security around my neighborhood anyway. I pretended not to notice. We began dating in the strangest way possible. Dinner after meetings, coffee before court hearings. Walks with Franklin surrounded by discreet security men who pretended not to exist. There were no flowers. Adrian considered flowers inefficient. So I came into my office one morning and found a signed first edition of my favorite novel. I called him. This is excessive. You said flowers die. I also said expensive gifts are unnecessary. You said excessive spending is unnecessary. Same thing. No, you are impossible. You keep saying that. 5 months after the attack, everything nearly ended. Not because of the Mafia, because of us. I discovered a payment. $250,000. No description, no invoice, no authorization from me. I walked into Adrian's office. What is this? He looked at the screen. Nothing. I felt cold. Try again. A private expense. From an operating account. Move it to what category? Security. Security for what? He did not answer. That was enough. No secrets. Audrey, no, it is not relevant. Then tell me. His jaw tightened. I knew that expression. He was deciding whether to protect me from the truth. I hated it. Who did you pay? Silence. Adrian, the Onans. I stared. What? Not them directly. Then who? People connected to them. Why? He stood. Because the organization did not fully disappear. My stomach tightened. What happened? A crew was planning another attempt. On me? Yes. When? 3 weeks ago. I stared at him. 3 weeks. I had gone to restaurants. Walked Franklin, visited my parents, slept alone in my townhouse, and he had known. You did not tell me. I handled it. You lied. I protected you. That is not the same thing. It is to me. Anger rose so quickly that my hands shook. No secrets. This was not a secret that affected your work. It affected my life. Nothing happened, because you paid them. Because I removed the problem. The wording chilled me. Removed. He said nothing. I stepped back. What did you do, Audrey? What did you do? His silence answered. I felt sick. Not because I had suddenly discovered what he was. I knew. Because he had promised honesty. And because I had let myself believe love could create exceptions in a man like Adrian Cross. You should go. His face changed. This is my office. Then I will. I turned. He caught my wrist, not hard, never hard. I looked down at his hand. He released me immediately. Do not leave angry. I am not angry. You are furious. I am disappointed. That hurt him. I saw it. Good. You do not trust me. I trust you with my life. Then why hide this? His voice lowered. Because I could not watch you be afraid again. The anger shifted, not disappeared, shifted. That was not your decision. I know. No, you do not. I am trying. Trying means failing sometimes and telling me anyway. He looked at me. I saw you in that hospital. I closed my eyes. Stop using that night to justify everything. I cannot. Then you need to. Silence. I continued. I love you. It was the first time I had said it. His entire expression changed. That was not how I had imagined it. No candlelight, no music. Just anger and fluorescent office lighting. I swallowed. I love you. That means you do not get to turn fear into control. He stared at me. You love me. Do not change the subject. You never said it. I just did. He stepped closer. Say it again. I almost laughed. No, Audrey, we are arguing. I do not care. You should. I love you. The words stopped me. He had never said them either. His voice was quiet, almost rough. I love you. That is the problem. No, it is not. It is for men like me. Then become better. He looked at me as if nobody had ever said that to him. Maybe nobody had. Not harmless, I said. Not weak. Better. How? Start by telling me the truth. He did, not all at once. That would have been impossible. But he told me about the threat, the payment, the men, the arrangements. I told him which parts were unacceptable. He argued. I argued harder. We did not break up. We built rules, real ones. Information that affected my safety had to be shared. Financial decisions above a certain threshold required documentation. Strategic retaliation required discussion unless there was immediate danger. He hated the rules, then followed most of them. I considered that progress. A year after the attack, I became Chief Financial Officer of Cross Holdings publicly. Privately, my role was larger. I designed systems that made the organization less dependent on cash and less vulnerable to internal theft. I eliminated several operations I considered reckless. Adrian eliminated several people I considered reckless. We compromised, mostly. Chicago changed around us. Old alliances faded. New companies appeared. Some men became richer, some disappeared. Cross Holdings expanded into legitimate industries, fast enough that newspapers began calling Adrian a redevelopment visionary. I framed one article. He hated it. The headline said Adrian Cross, the man rebuilding Chicago. I hung it above his private bar. You are taking it down. No, I look ridiculous. You look philanthropic, that is worse, Franklin barked. I pointed at the dog, he agrees with me. That dog has terrible judgment. Franklin slept on Adrian's side of the bed. 2 years after the attack, Adrian proposed. It was not romantic, of course it was not. We were reviewing a development contract. I noticed an unusual legal provision. What is this? He kept reading another page. What, this ownership clause, standard? No, it is not, it could be. It transfers half the holding structure to a family trust. Yes, whose family? He looked up. Ours, I stared. We do not have a family trust, not yet. Then he placed a ring on the contract. I stared at it, then at him. Are you serious? Yes, that is your proposal, yes. You put an engagement ring on a restructuring agreement. I knew you would read it. I started laughing. He looked offended. You could say yes. You could ask properly. His expression tightened. He stood, walked around the desk. Then to my complete shock, he got down on one knee. Adrian Cross. The man who had made police captains nervous. The man who could silence rooms by entering them, kneeling in front of me. Audrey Miller. I stopped laughing. He took my hand. You walked into my office 5 years before I deserved you, and told me someone was stealing from me. My eyes burned. You have been correcting my mistakes ever since. Many mistakes. Do not interrupt. I smiled, he continued. You are the only person who has ever looked at everything I am and demanded more instead of less. My smile disappeared. You make me angry. Frequently, you make me question decisions I used to make without thinking. Good. You make my house feel different when you are not there. My throat tightened. And you made me understand that protecting something is not the same as possessing it. That nearly broke me. He lifted the ring. I cannot promise you a quiet life. I would not believe you. I cannot promise I will become a different man. I do not want a different man. His eyes held mine. I can promise you the truth. I can promise you a seat beside me. I can promise I will never decide your life for you again. I raised an eyebrow. Never, he sighed. I will make an effort. Better, Audrey. Yes, marry me. I waited 3 seconds just to punish him. He narrowed his eyes. I smiled. Yes, he stood and kissed me. Franklin barked outside the office. Carter later claimed he had won $500 because he predicted I would make Adrian ask twice. I froze Carter's entertainment budget for a month. Some traditions mattered. We married in October, small ceremony. My parents, my brother. A handful of friends. Adrian's closest men. No newspaper announcement, no political guests, no spectacle. I wore the silver earrings. Adrian noticed. Of course he did. Before the ceremony he found me alone near the window. You are wearing them. I touched one earring. You remember. Everything, I smiled. You look nervous. No, liar, Audrey. I took his hand. His palm still had a faint scar from the night he went after the Onans. Mine had none. That seemed appropriate. He carried scars on his skin. I carried mine somewhere deeper. Neither disappeared. We simply stopped letting them decide everything. People like simple stories. Good men, bad men, victims, villains, light, darkness. I used to believe in those categories too. Then I spent 5 years balancing the books of a man people called a monster. Then I watched that monster sit beside my hospital bed without knowing what to say. I watched him burn with rage because someone had hurt me. I watched him make terrible decisions in the name of love. I watched him learn, slowly and painfully, that love did not excuse control, and he watched me change too. I was not the innocent secretary pulled into a criminal world. That version made a better story. It was not true. I knew what Adrian was long before the night I was attacked. I understood where some of the money came from. I simply told myself numbers were neutral. They were not. Money was never neutral. Money was loyalty, power, fear, freedom, punishment, survival. The Onans learned that when I froze $6 million with a compliance flag they never saw coming. I learned it when 3 cash offices disappeared, and an entire criminal organization began collapsing before breakfast. That night changed everything, not because Adrian saved me, he did. But because for the first time I stopped standing behind the glass. I chose that distinction mattered. Years later, people still underestimated me. They saw the tailored suits, the quiet voice, the financial reports. They assumed Adrian Cross was the dangerous one. Sometimes during negotiations I caught Adrian trying not to smile. He knew better. There was one meeting I remember particularly well. A developer from New York came to Chicago, believing he could pressure us into selling a property near the river. He spent 20 minutes talking over me. Every question I asked he answered to Adrian. Finally I closed my folder. Mr. Keller. He looked at Adrian. I repeated, Mr. Keller. He finally looked at me. Yes. You believe this negotiation is with my husband? He smiled politely. Mr. Cross is the principal decision maker. Adrian leaned back. I could see amusement in his eyes. I continued. The property is owned by a trust. Yes, I control the trust. The man's smile faded. The financing is secured through Miller Capital. Silence. I control Miller Capital. He looked at Adrian. Adrian lifted both hands. I recommend speaking to my wife. I smiled. Your offer is rejected. Keller left 20 minutes later. Adrian waited until the door closed, then he laughed. What? I warned him. You did not. I told him you were handling the meeting. He thought you were being polite. His mistake. I gathered my files. Adrian caught my hand. Where are you going? My office. Stay. I have work. 5 minutes. For what? He pulled me closer. For me to appreciate the terrifying financial strategist I married. I smiled. 5 minutes. 10, 7, deal. That was our marriage. Negotiation, conflict, loyalty, love and spreadsheets, always spreadsheets. Sometimes late at night I still remembered the rain, the broken glass, the pavement beneath my hands, the man's voice telling me the books were closed. For a long time the memory made me afraid. Eventually it made me laugh. Because he had been right about one thing, the books did close, just not ours. His organization disappeared, his money vanished. His allies abandoned him, his name became a footnote in a federal case. Ours kept growing, not cleanly, not perfectly, not without consequences. But together, the first time I told Adrian that, we were sitting in his office after midnight. Chicago glowed beneath the windows. Franklin was sleeping near the desk. Adrian had his sleeves rolled up. I had 3 financial reports open and a cup of tea beside me. Almost exactly like the nights we had spent together before everything changed, except now there was no wall. I looked at him. He looked up from his papers. What? Do you ever think about that night? His expression changed. Which part? The phone call. Every day I blinked. Every day. Yes. Why? He closed the file. Because if you had called someone else I do not know what my life would look like. I looked down. I almost did. His face became still. Who? My brother. Why did you not? He was overseas. Good. I laughed. That is terrible. I am grateful for military deployment. You are unbelievable. He leaned back. Why did you call me? I had never answered that question, not honestly. I looked at the city. Because I knew you would come. He did not speak. I looked back. I did not know how quickly. I did not know what you would do, but I knew you would come. His eyes softened. Always. I smiled. That sounds dangerously close to a promise. It is one. I reached across the desk. He took my hand. For 5 years before that night, I had believed strength meant needing nobody. I had built my life around competence, around independence, around never being the person who needed rescuing. Then 2 men pulled me out of a car and taught me how quickly control could disappear. Adrian taught me something different. Being protected did not have to mean being weak. And I taught him that protecting someone did not mean owning them. We met in the middle, not in the light, not completely in the dark. Somewhere between, that was where we built our life. My name is Audrey Miller Cross now. I still balance the books. I still question every number. I still tell Adrian when his ideas are terrible. He still ignores me occasionally. I still win eventually. People sometimes ask how I became the most trusted advisor to one of the most powerful men in Chicago. They expect a complicated answer. Political connections, financial leverage, blackmail, fear. The truth is simpler. I walked into his office once and told him somebody was stealing from him. 5 years later, I called him from a hospital because somebody had tried to break me. He came without hesitation. Then I discovered that the men who believed I was his weakness had made the worst financial decision of their lives. They attacked the accountant. They expected the Mafia boss to retaliate with guns. They never understood that the real weapon was sitting beside him with a calculator. They never understood that Adrian and I were strongest when he stopped trying to keep me behind him and let me stand beside him. They never understood that $6 million could destroy an empire faster than bullets. And they certainly never understood the most dangerous truth of all. For years, Adrian Cross had been the man everyone in Chicago feared. After that night, he became the man I loved. And I became the woman even his enemies learned not to underestimate.